all hear me? Okay. Come on in. I'm going to invite you in. It's difficult to talk to a dispersed crowd. So please don't be shy. Come closer. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And before I talk a bit about the exhibit, I just want to extend immense gratitude to all of the people who made this show possible, especially JC Gonzalez and April, truly superhuman efforts to make this possible. I also want to thank the incredibly visionary artists. There are 10 artists in this show, 7 of whom are here tonight from all over the world. We'll talk more about each of them. And I want to thank Nina Elder, whose visionary work in spearheading this exhibit is here tonight in spirit in so many ways. So I'm going to speak fairly briefly tonight, but there will be a walkthrough on April 6th, in which I'll speak in more depth, and that will be in collaboration and conversation with the environmental humanities scholar Emily Eliza Scott. And on April 6th, there will also be a catalog available that will include all of the wall text and 2 essays and poetry. So please join us on April 6th. And this coming Thursday, the 22nd, there will be a poetry reading with 2 amazing New Mexican poets, Meme Bursenbruga and Sonny Morris. And while their contributions to this show are literary and oral rather than visual, I consider them to be artists who are part of this show. So please come either in person or you can join us online this coming Thursday. I also want to say hello and thank you, and please introduce yourself to me because I'm new to New Mexico. I am a New Yorker who's been living in Oregon for 20 years, and now I'm here. And I'm so happy to be here. It really feels like home, but I don't know you, so please say hello. I'm excited to get to know the New Mexican arts community. So to start with the title of this exhibit, Geohaptics is a neologism. It's a made-up word that combines 2 roots, geo, which you might recognize from geography or geology, meaning earth, and haptic, which is a word that you might recognize from your phone when it buzzes, it's in your pocket and you feel that, it's a haptic signal. So haptic has to do with the sense of touch. So if we combine these 2 words in the simplest sense, it translates to earth touch. The Canadian poet Erin Robinsong defines geohaptic as the extreme intimacy of ecological entanglement by the air, water, and matter we take in and continually re-become. What I like about that definition is her focus on intimate entanglement, because the word haptic stems from the Greek word haptein, which means to fasten. And when we fasten something, we do so deliberately. It's not something, you don't fasten something by accident, right? We do so deliberately and usually in anticipation of a counterforce. So we fasten our seatbelt in anticipation of a potential crash. We fasten a door lock in anticipation of wind. We fasten a locket around our neck in anticipation of forgetting. So to fasten is a deliberate act that we do in response to a strong counterforce. So to be geohaptic is to be fastened, to make the choice to be fastened to the earth and to feel in response. And that's something that every artist in this show has done in a unique and specific and diverse way, and something that's really evident in each of these works. It's also a decision that is extremely difficult to make at this moment in time, because I don't need to tell you all, I'm sure, that there's a lot of violence occurring to our Earth and from our Earth, and there's rapid changes going on that we both understand and don't understand. So to make the decision at this moment in time, and to have made this decision for many years, which all of these artists have, to be fastened to the Earth in intimate entanglement and to feel in response, is a very brave and deliberate decision. And to feel, as these artists have chosen to do, is different than knowing the facts. We all know the facts about our planet, we know the facts about climate change, and often what we do in response to those facts is move away from them because they're painful. The interesting thing that I think is evident in all of the work in this exhibit is that when we feel in response to those facts, rather than just think in response to the facts, what we find isn't just more pain and grief. What we find is a really profound sensorium of love and joy and wonder. And I think that's evident in all of this work. This show is not a reiteration of flogging you over the head with the dire situation of our Earth. It's actually an invitation to feel a broad spectrum of emotions, many of which are positive. So this exhibition is an invitation to be in this moment, to be geohaptic, and to do so in the excellent company of the 10 artists who have chosen to do this for many, many years over a sustained artistic practice and in very diverse ways all over the world. It's an invitation to slow down. One of the reasons poetry is part of this exhibit is because poems require that we go slow. This exhibit wants you to go slow. You'll notice in the wall text of the exhibit that there are lots of poets quoted, and there are also lots of different voices quoted, and that's very intentional to create a kind of ecology of voices throughout the show. There's no single voice in this work, and you're invited to enter into all of them. This exhibit is looking for more love and less apathy, more feeling and less numbness, more care, less malice, more community, less hyper-individualism, more slowness, less speed, more connection, less loneliness. There's a Lucille Clifton poem that I'll read part of, in which I think she names what this exhibit is looking for really beautifully. It's an elegy, I think appropriately, it's an elegy for her husband, but it's a poem of joy, even though it's an elegy. And she writes, "And I saw with the most amazing clarity, so that I had not eyes but sight, and rising and turning through my skin, there was all around not the shapes of things, but oh, at last, the things themselves." So this exhibit is an invitation to the things themselves. And from our relationship with the things themselves, we can weave new stories of ourselves and of the earth. So I'm going to move on to introduce some of the specific works and the specific artists, starting with this large work here. And I'm not going to recite the artist accolades, even though I could do that for hours. Every single artist in this exhibit is incredibly accomplished, but I'm going to speak in different ways about them. But if you want to know how amazing they all are, I can tell you, they can tell you, you can look them up online. But this is a work by Athena LaTocha. Athena's work is called Still is the Night. And Athena could not stay to be with us tonight. She was here installing this for an extended time this week and had to return home. But she's certainly here in the form of her work. Athena makes massive works on paper that explore the relationship between human-made and natural worlds. She lives in New York but grew up in Alaska. And she travels widely to make her work, which is always site-specific, which means it's always centered on this immersive approach to embodied research of the place she's in. She paints with the earth itself. She's using dirt, rocks, water, and other matter specific to each place. She's also using tools like big, violent, earth-moving tools. She spreads things out on the floor to make these works. I think of her work as a stormy collaboration with the forces that are both human-made and otherwise that constitute a place. Next, we'll find the work of Carol Padberg, who is happily here tonight. Please say hello to Carol. Carol is an artist, writer, and educator who lives on unceded Tewa land in Alcalde, New Mexico. Her practice includes making regenerative textiles using ancestral spinning and weaving technologies, and walking the Cuesta Superfund mine site. She weaves letters to that mountain using drone imagery of remediation work with her own writing. And you'll find some of those weavings here and upstairs. I think of all of Carol's work as a form of weaving, because what I think of Carol doing is weaving new stories about what it means to be human, about nature, space, and time. And with these new stories, Carol is weaving new worlds. Hers is a deeply somatic material practice and deeply engaged active community exchange. She thinks of her materials as kin relationships that can travel through time and reconnect. Carol's work in this show is the product of a decade of intense exploration. Please take the time to experience it. There is so much there, and say hello to Carol tonight. Next, we'll find the work of Ella Morton. Ella is here tonight as well. Ella has traveled all the way from Toronto. She is, I don't know where Ella is, but she is here somewhere. She is a Canadian artist who has what she calls an expedition-based practice. And she travels to some of the most remote regions of the world, the Arctic and the Antarctic, to make photographs that focus on the subtle and mysterious qualities of photography and of the glaciers with which she's collaborating. The work on this show is drawn from her series called Procession of Ghosts. And these are photographs of glaciers that are ambrotypes. It's a photographic process she can tell you more about. They're printed on black glass and then shattered, and then resealed using the Japanese technique of kintsugi, which is sealing those cracks with gold. And in their broken and sealed state, they're considered traditionally to be more beautiful than they were when they were whole. So she's asking us with her work to embrace both brokenness and wholeness, fragility and resilience, grief and love. Next, we'll find the work of Mitsu Salmon, those two large paintings down there. Mitsu is here tonight and will perform at 6 p.m. So please stick around for Mitsu's performance. We're very excited about it. Mitsu's work fuses visual art and performance and draws from familial and personal narratives which she then abstracts, expands, and contradicts in her work. This work is drawn from a series called Somatic Tracing, which explores the history of the Transcontinental Railroad and how that history continues to live on today in the bodies of the Asian American laborers who constructed the tracks, their descendants, and the Utah mountains that Mitsu calls home. She collected what she calls the physical and ethereal materials for this work from these sites of the historic railroad. So that means pigments from the soil and reverberations made by tapping the railroad tracks. And then she recombines these into dances, sculptural objects, and paintings. So please talk to Mitsu tonight, see her performance. There's a lot to think about there. Moving around on the wall, we'll find the work of Sarah Gerats. Sarah lives an intimate daily relationship with glaciers on the island of Svalbard, Norway, which is the northernmost settlement in the world. She could not be here tonight because she's very, very far away. But she will be part of an artist panel on May 16th. She'll be here virtually for that, and she's a fascinating human being. So please tune in on May 16th. Sarah lives on Svalbard, and when she's not living on Svalbard, she leads sailing expeditions to the most remote regions of the Arctic and the Antarctic. So the work that you'll find here is part of her series called The Reclining Nude, which consists of over 500 performative nudes collected by Beili relating her body to the Arctic. She often assumes a sort of classical pose, which is done in deliberate contrast to this landscape that is changing more rapidly than any other place on our planet. You'll also find her video White Walk, in which she places her body in contrast to this landscape that feels endless, even as the ends of these landscapes are accelerating into view. Moving down the wall, we find the work of Beili Liu. Beili is here tonight. Welcome, Beili. The photograph that is right next to Sarah's work is a collaboration between Sarah and Beili. Beili and Sarah and I met on a sailboat in the Arctic. And I will leave it to you to read the wall text that beautifully describes, in Beili's words, that moment of the creation of that photograph. You can also talk to Beili about it. It was a beautiful moment. Next on the wall, we see Beili's cyanotypes. And Beili lives in Austin, Texas, and teaches there, but for many years has been in creative exchange with the far northern lands of the Arctic. And her work focuses on the transience and spiritual persistence of these places. Her work often involves repetitive acts meant to coax into visibility the transformative force hidden in a material. So these cyanotypes were made in collaboration with thousands of round glacier stones on the shore of the North Sea. And Beili wrapped vellum around each of these stones using cyanotype materials again and again and again, creating this sea of swaddled stones to create these repetitive images. This work began in 2016, and it's the first time that it's being shown in public. Thank you, Beili, for sharing it with us. Jonathan Marquis is also here with us tonight. Jonathan is an artist and a mountaineer. His work is on that wall, and then it continues upstairs. Jonathan, since 2014, has been engaged in the Glacier Drawing Project. And this is an ambitious project that it seeks to document and engage and collaborate with all of the glaciers in the state of Montana. Jonathan moves between Tucson, Arizona, and Montana, and for many years has been involved in this placemaking practice of bearing witness to these disappearing ecosystems. Most of these glaciers are extremely difficult to reach. So these works are made with pencils and paintbrushes, but they're also made with backpacks and boots and sweat and intense expeditions into the backcountry. I'm sure that Jonathan has many stories. He can tell you about them. Please talk to him about them. They're what I think of as collaborative elegies. And As we heard in Lucille Clifton's poem, and as you can see in Jonathan's work, an elegy is not about sadness. These are images with many complex emotions woven into them. Alexis Elton is also here with us tonight. She's in the back there. And her work is upstairs. We're moving around the room upstairs now. Alexis works with site as material in New York's Hudson Valley. And there she forms connections with plants, soil, and other living beings. We're so happy Alexis is here tonight because in many ways she's coming home. She lived in northern New Mexico for many years in Chimayo, cooperating Jubilee Farm. And that's where she developed a practice that merged art, farming, and community. Her work in this show is titled Molecules Can Come Back Together, and it's a multi-sensory installation that focuses on salt. It's asking us to consider salt's metaphorical and ecological qualities. Salt is a component that's essential to the human body, to other bodies, to the economy, and to the earth. And she's encouraging us to consider salt as a medium by which to explore the unknowable and the invisible. Alexis's work is also one of several in this exhibit that invite you to engage with it sensorially in senses beyond sight, so you can smell and even taste Alexis's work. I would encourage you to do so. Next, upstairs, you'll find the work of Heidi Gustafson. Heidi is here with us tonight as well. Heidi is an artist and ochre specialist who traveled all the way from rainy, volcanic North Cascades of northern Washington, just shy of the Canadian border. And in this very watery, jagged, and liminal place, Heidi created the Ochre Sanctuary, and it's in the process still of this lifelong work. The Ochre Sanctuary is a refuge for over 600 earth pigments from around the earth, collected and shared with Heidi by many different humans. Heidi's relationship with ochres is probably unlike anyone else's that you've encountered. She talks about ochres as portals, potencies, life forms unto themselves. She says, with a piece of ochre, we hold earth in our hands. Ochre is a shared creative portal between the cosmos, Earth's heart, and my tiny life. Her practice is one of deep enmeshment and convivial collaboration with the ochres. She really dives headfirst into a relationship of intimacy with the earth and creates channels for the aliveness to come out. I would invite you to speak with Heidi tonight and engage with her work upstairs. The last artist who could not be with us tonight is Jason Franscisco. He has an artist book upstairs that consists of experimental photographs and poems made on a Fulbright scholarship in Hania, Greece, in collaboration with the wind, the water, the light, the stones, and his interaction with these entities as a way to move beyond simple ways of knowing. So the last thing I'll note two additional threads in this show before I leave it to you to explore it on your own. I talked about the multiple voices in the wall text that are invitations for you to sort of weave your way into the words yourself. You'll also notice a preponderance of blue. There is a lot of blue in this show. And I noticed that early on in the curation, and I considered altering the work so that it wasn't so blue. But I decided to allow the show to have this color signature because I think of color as a very important component of our sensory world. It's an invitation to the things themselves. It's an invitation to a shared sensory experience. It's a way to engage with each other and with a larger aliveness. So it's the color of sky and water and stones, of melting glaciers, of the ocean. It's the color of baby blankets. It's the color of eyes. It's a complex and violent and beautiful color, so note the blue, enjoy it. There are also, as I noted in Alexis's work and other people's work, there's an invitation in several of these works to engage in a way beyond sight. And I would encourage you to do so, even if it might feel slightly awkward, because how often are you asked to do so? And also, it's a way to alter time, to slow, and to engage with new sensory realities that might spur new ideas. So I'll conclude with the words of poet and activist Audre Lorde, who said, "I feel, therefore I can be free." So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your attention. And Mitsu's performance will begin at 6. Please say hello. Thank you again. Enjoy the show.